Hello, my name is Scott Gary. I'm a technical marketing engineer with Cisco's Computing Systems Product Group. This video is part of a series intended to show some of the unique advantages made possible by Cisco's server offering called the Unified Computing System, or UCS for short. This video will show the viewer how to accelerate, simplify, and standardize SAP Hana solution deployments. Cisco UCS is the #1 deployed converged infrastructure. Deployment guides are available from Cisco, our partners, and a wide variety of industry experts who publish valuable information about managing UCS in blogs, forums, and other social media sources. Shown here are just a few of the SAP HANA specific documents available for a variety of infrastructure models. The key takeaway is you aren't going it alone. You can work with confidence that your SAP HANA solution will be running on a platform vetted by experts in the SAP and UCS communities. The configuration details in this video were obtained from these documents. We will actually be using server configurations from the documented UCS B and C series appliance models supported by Cisco and certified by SAP. We will show a range of servers appropriate for both scale-up and scale-out deployments. For the exact locations of the documents used for this demonstration, please refer to the recap slides, which provide simple search cues for finding them. Even the most complex, mission-critical, disaster-tolerant deployments using established SAP standards are easily built and managed with Cisco UCS and its associated family of management software. Let's move on to the demonstration and take a look at this in action. First, we'll take a quick high-level look at the equipment we have installed and ready to configure in UCS Manager. We have a couple of blade chassis and a couple of rack mount servers. You can see the basic server layout here on the left. Getting a closer look, we can see all of our blades are the same model of base expandable EXM4 blades with various memory sizes from 128 gigabytes to 512 gigabytes, corresponding to the different HANA configurations we're deploying. In Chassis 1, we have scale-up nodes for non-productive and development use, and in Chassis 2, we have scale-out nodes for production use. In the rack mounts, we have a 1 terabyte scale-up appliance and a 3 terabyte system for Suite on HANA use. These configurations can all be found on the certified SAP HANA hardware directory. We have a number of service profiles already associated with our servers, representing an operational deployment. We'll look at some key policies and templates used in these profiles to see how the UCS advantage is applied to SAP HANA. After seeing how this infrastructure is tailored for management of the application, we'll go through some operational scenarios to see how the UCS maximizes your HANA deployments. Let's take a look at global configuration policies that are specific to HANA deployments. Here's a good example of building on the experience of others rather than going at your own. Cisco recommends using port pinning for server downlinks rather than port channels. This provides the best overall performance under varying configurations and loads. In our pools, we follow some best practices that can provide valuable information for monitoring, security management, or troubleshooting. In our UUID pools, we encode both our HANA SID and a usage type according to how we're going to use the system, such as development, production, and test with a unique part of the UUID. For our MAC addresses, we use a common practice of identifying the UCS domain ID and the A or B fabric side used in our VNIC templates, as well as the HANA SID and the VLAN ID that the MAC address is intended to be used on. And finally, for our worldwide node name and worldwide port name pools, we encode the HANA SID and the usage. And in the worldwide port names, we encode both the UCS domain ID and the fabric, and the HANA SID and the usage type. Next, we'll look at some policy settings for the servers. BIOS policies are common for all bare metal SAP HANA deployments with any given CPU model. Since all servers in this installation contain E7 V2 processors, also known as Ivy Bridge EX, we need just a single BIOS policy for all of them. We've set that up according to the recommendations provided by Cisco for those servers. Notice we versioned our policy, so that if we need to make changes in the future, we can create a new version of the policy and migrate service profiles carefully over time. Versioning of policies and profiles is a practice used throughout this deployment. It improves clarity and control to operations over time and is considered a best practice for UCS management. SAP wants to have a serial console available. Even minor items like this can be managed with UCS. You aren't forced to log into each server and go into the BIOS to change seldomly used settings. You can be confident every aspect of your server is properly set up for the application tied to the profile. In our maintenance policy, we require user acknowledgement before any disruptive activities to ensure that our production operations aren't impacted unexpectedly due to changes in the configuration. We enable memory blacklisting in the default memory policy so that if a memory error occurs, that memory is disabled on reboot so it is no longer used in the server and won't cause further problems. We set up our serial over LAN policy to allow our serial console to be accessible over the network. SAP system management tools for scale-out clusters will utilize IPMI commands for controlling nodes. Again, UCS makes it easy to maintain a consistent configuration. We make use of firmware policies, again with versioning, to simplify firmware management. We'll revisit this area in one of our maintenance scenarios. Now let's briefly go over and take a look at our network connectivity. We have the standard set of VLANs set up according to SAP specifications. We use VLAN groups to make it easy to associate our VLANs with the appropriate uplinks. Next, we have a set of VNIC templates which instantiate our network adapters to connect our servers to those VLANs. And finally, we have our LAN connectivity policy, which collects all of our VNICs together into a single policy, making it extremely simple to bring up all of the networking necessary to support SAP Hana in our service profiles. When it comes to storage, there isn't much that's specific to HANA, so the standard practices for connecting to storage apply, whether it's local or in a SAN. Server templates and profiles are where we bring it all together. We gather our collection of policies into templates according to the different ways the application is used. We then apply those templates to the server's provision for each use case. And then in our service profiles, we have each of those templates instantiated one or more times depending on how many servers we've provisioned for the job. Well, if you're still awake, why don't we look at a couple of real-world scenarios that can sometimes be a bit painful. Say that a new version of firmware has become recommended and we want to begin moving to it in a controlled, orderly fashion. One thing we could do would be to go into one of our service profiles, say a test profile, go into our policies, change the firmware policy directly. In this case, we can't because this service policy is based on a service policy template. Maybe we could go in and just change the template itself, but that's not a good idea because that's going to affect all of the servers that are tied to that template. What we can do is go down and create a new firmware policy that calls out the new version of firmware. And remember, we're versioning our policies, so what I can do here is go in and create a new version of our firmware policy, and we're just going to do it simply, and we're going to say that the new version of firmware will be called out for both blades and rack servers. Now this has no effect on the system so far. This policy is not part of any service profile templates or service profiles themselves. Now we still don't want to go in and just apply that to a profile template, but what we can do is choose one of our templates, and again these are versioned as well, and I'm going to do it on our smaller test server rather than our 1 terabyte test server, and I'm going to create a clone. So I'm going to name this clone similarly to my original one, and notice we have these according to the processor model because that tends to have an effect on things like BIOS settings, and here now we're at V2 because we're not changing any of the fundamental nature of the service profile template, just something that it's tied to, and we're going to put that in the same organization that the original one was in. And so now we have a new template identical to the first in every way except for the name, and now we want to move to the new version. So now we can choose a server that we want to apply it and bind to a new template, There's V1. We're going to change to V2. It's going to require an acknowledgement. We can say that we are ready once we are at the maintenance window where we do want to reboot that server. And that server is going to be upgraded and it will be brought back into service. We can do all of our testing, choose our larger test server sometime in the future, move it over, do some additional testing. Maybe we move some of our development servers over, and eventually we'll move all of our production servers over in an orderly manner to this new service profile template. If we need to roll back, all we have to do is rebind our server to the older version of the service policy template. The firmware will be automatically downgraded and the server brought back into production. Nothing else will be changed. It is a great way to manage your firmware in the UCS system. Okay, let's take a look at one more scenario. In this one, we'll see how server pools can dramatically reduce the effort to expand a HANA installation. We could manually associate our profiles with new hardware, but server pools allow us to automate that step as well. Server pools work along with server pool policies and server pool policy qualifiers to group servers and match them with the desired templates. Our pool policy qualifiers group our servers according to memory and storage capacities. Those qualifiers are then used by the pool policies to put the servers into our pools. Looking at our pools, we can see that some servers are in more than one, but that's okay. Now going up and looking at our service profile template, we can see that they're tied to our server pools, and that's how things get matched up. Notice also that our test and development profiles have an additional pool qualification, and that's how servers that might be in multiple pools can be selected out to go into the right service profile. And finally, we have an auto config policy that ties our production service profile template to our scale out SAN-based HANA node qualification pool. Let's see all this in action. Business has been great, so we're going to add another full chassis of scale-out servers to our deployment. Through the magic of computers and video, we'll jump back to the future and watch the system come up with the new equipment. And here we can see our new blades have been found, profiles have been created, and they've begun to be associated with those profiles. The only thing we'll need to do is change the profile names to match the schema we've used before, and we're done. How easy is that? The capabilities of UCS were developed to simplify the tasks necessary to deploy the solutions you manage. If you have not already viewed them, I encourage you to watch the UCS Advantage videos that go into these features in more depth. They are the heart of the UCS experience made to take effort, risk, and time out of the practice of managing your solutions. To recap, deploying SAP HANA solutions can be a challenge in many environments, and Cisco UCS helps by simplifying, accelerating, and standardizing the process of standing up the application. We saw the wide variety of information purposefully developed to get you started with SAP HANA on UCS right away. Next, we looked at how you can directly apply the various UCS capabilities to your SAP HANA deployments. With policies, profiles, templates, and pools, you can create repeatable, low-risk processes for configuration, monitoring, managing, and troubleshooting your HANA solutions. Shown here are some simple web search queries for finding the documents used in this video. This will make it much easier for you to locate them for review. There are many other excellent documents available from experts at Cisco and our partners who are leading the way in establishing UCS as the preferred platform for SAP HANA deployments. Deploying SAP HANA solutions can be a challenge in many environments, and Cisco UCS helps by simplifying, accelerating, and standardizing the process of standing up the application. This ends this UCS Advantage video, where we show how unique capabilities in the Cisco UCS can lead to simplified deployment models with much faster service turnaround to meet the increasing demands of the business. Please go to www.cisco.com/go/UCS for printed collateral, including a brochure that highlights the information shown in this video. Thank you.